Hello again, everybody. Zacatech is here with my UFC 174 review for June the 14th, 2014 from the Rogers Arena, Vancouver, Canada. As I'm making this review, happy Father's Day, everybody. Anyway, my thoughts on this pay-per-view. The last pay-per-view, we only had one really great fight out of a overall lackluster card for UFC 173. This fight card, however, had three great fights. And the first two were like, yeah. And the remaining three, the co-main, especially the co-main, probably the best fight of that was the co-main. And the main were pretty good. The last three were awesome. Well, the co-main was good, and the last two fights were pretty good. So there you go. Decent little fight card, better than the last one. At least this fight card had more than one good fight. Last fight card only had really one good fight, which was the main event, which in my mind saved UFC 174 of 73 from being a bad pay-per-view. But this one had really good card. From really third fight to fifth. A 7.0 out of 10 for my overall pay-per-view rating. Like I said, mass improvement on UFC 173 when it comes to amount of good fights. This is my opinion. Let's get on to the fights and my thoughts on each one. First fight of the night was the light heavyweight division. It was Ovince Preux taking on Jimmo. This is a Canadian guy, because like I said, we're being in Canada. A lot of Canadian fighters, including our co-main. This fight, it was okay. The first one was decent. Ovince had some good strikes in the first round, and the second round, should I say, is when the fight ended, and the fight ended quite strangely, in my opinion. Ovince did some very good moves, including a couple of takedowns, but he had one takedown. Look like he was going for some sort of submission with some sort of armbar, and in the transition to trying to get a possible submission, he apparently twisted Jimmo's Jimmo. I keep calling him Jimbo. It's Jimmo. Jimmo's arm was apparently Ovince twisted his arm, twisted Ryan's arm. Apparently twisted it so bad, referee stopped the fight to a verbal tap out because the arm just twisted out of place. Apparently, you can saw Ryan's arm grasping his arm in the end of the fight when he was being injured. So kind of a weird ending. 2.0 out of 5. I gave it that because it was it was too short, abrupt ending. It was just an okay, decent, some okay action in that fight. And the ending was kind of weird to me. You know, hey, injuries happen, but the way it was called, it was just sudden. And it was, like I said, second round. On to our next fight. Andrei Arlovski. I was so looking forward to seeing him back in UFC. He was fighting for the World Series of MMA. Back in UFC, taking on Brendan Schaub. And I thought Arlovski was going to come in with a vengeance. But unfortunately, his performance was not good. This fight was just not good to me. It had some better action in the first fight, but not much, you know. It was a fight not to lose fight, in my opinion. A fight not to lose fight is two guys who just go in there and just sleepwalk, just go on autopilot. And it was a split decision. Because it was a kind of a tough fight to score. Because Arlovski had some good shots in. And Schaub was on top of Arlovski in that third round. In my mind, Schaub did win that third round. He was on top of Arlovski. He was controlling that third round. It felt like Schaub should have won. But Arlovski won by split decision. That was a tough fight to score because there was not a lot of action in that fight. It was okay action, but just not a lot of excitement. There was just sleepwalking through it, in my opinion. And Arlovski won, and he did not look good in that fight. He looked gassed by the end of that second round. He got lucky, in my opinion. You know what I mean? And this is his first fight back in UFC, and he needed a better performance than this. He just didn't look dominant in the fight. You know, nobody looked dominant almost. Yes, like I said, Schaub looked good in that third round, but that was about it. Arlovski needs a better fight to come back with. This wasn't his proper comeback fight. Because he won, but it was like he did not want to win his first fight back in UFC by a split decision. And he didn't want to win on a fight like that. Just a sloppy fight. It was just okay, not a lot of action. Just not eventful, in my opinion. Mostly because I was in conversation. I was at B-Dubs, Buffalo Wild Wings, watching this. I don't pay for the pay-per-views. I watch it at Buffalo Wild Wings. And I was talking to this guy named Steve, who's a local MMA fighter and promoter who knows a lot of people in UFC and Bellator as well, and knows friends who trains with people in UFC. So it's kind of interesting to talk to him. So I was kind of distracted during this fight as well. So that's why I'm giving this fight a 2.2. It was just okay. I like Arlovski. Nice to see him back in UFC, but he needs a better fight to come to. This wasn't his comeback fight. He needs a really good performance to prove that he is ready to have another shot at UFC Gold. He is a former champion UFC. He needs a better fight to come. He needs a better performance. He needs a more dominant performance, and I hope he does that whenever his next fight is, or he will get cut, in my opinion, if he doesn't deliver more dominant, more exciting performances. Kind of like what happened during our next fight, and the next couple fights, actually, when it comes to the winners and their great performances. We got Darth Bader. Of course, the Andrei Arlovski fight was heavyweight division. And, of course, Ryan Bader is a light heavyweight. He took on Rafael Cavalcante is his name. And I thought he had another name, but anywho, Bader just destroyed this guy. It was a good action, very good action, more action than the first two fights for sure. And Bader just dominated with the takedowns and just really delivered some great ground and pound, especially at the end of the first round as he was taking down Rafael. Big knee to the gut. At the end of the first round, he just looked really good against Rafael. And Bader won the fight by unanimous decision. And his other it was a dominating performance for Bader. Rafael did well. He did try to have some good action in, good offense in, but he was just outmatched and outpowered by Darth Bader big time. And like I said, since Ryan Bader's nickname is Darth Bader, I must say this. That Ryan Bader was probably thinking in his head as he was beating up on Rafael. He was probably thinking to himself, Rafael, who's your daddy? Rafael, I am your father. Get it? Because he's Darth Vader. And he was Rafael's daddy, destroying him. Just the powerful takedowns and the ground and pound moves from Bader. And it's kind of weird to think of Bader as a good fighter and everything. I like Bader, but I always think of him as a sacrificial lamb because he was the one that lost to John Bones Jones the night that Bonesy was offered to take Rashad Evans' spot in the fight that Jones would go on to become UFC light heavyweight champion, and currently is. But that's the past. Present, 2.5 for the Bader fight against Rafael. Just a decent fight. Better than the first two for sure. Speaking of better than the first two fights, on to my mind the best fight of the night, the co-main event. In the welterweight division, Rory MacDonald, the Canadian, taking on Tyron Woodley. Now, I've seen Rory MacDonald fight before. And, like I said, Andrei Arlovski doesn't look like he deserves a title shot anytime soon because of his performance. It wasn't worthy of a win because his performance wasn't as good. But Rory MacDonald looks like a guy who should and could get a title shot because of his dominating performance over Tyron Woodley. This fight was just very fast-paced from the start. These two looked like two guys who were just going to slug it out. And it was just a slugfest between these two guys. Two of the top-ranked welterweights, with the exception of Robbie Lawler, just slugged it out. And Tyron really looked good as well, but Rory MacDonald was just dominant. He was just great with the leg kick. His leg kicks were just vicious. And his head kicks were vicious too. He just beat the crap out of Tyron. Some takedown, even on the takedowns, there was only one real takedown. That was the third round. But mostly, for the majority of the fight, it was just stand-up fight. A very good stand-up, very exciting stand-up. Probably the most exciting action of the entire evening. Or close to being exciting was this fight, for sure. With a Rory MacDonald victory, unanimous decision. And in front of his home country, in his hometown of Montreal, Quebec, Canada, he came in looking dominant, and he did. Overpower and outmatch Tyron Woodley. And like I said, Woodley did well too. He had some good shots in too. But Rory had an answer for everything. Now, here's what I think. I think Robbie Lawler deserves another shot at Hendricks. I thought when Robbie Lawler took on Hendricks that Lawler won the fight, but Hendricks looked good in that last round, and I think that won him the fight. Now, MacDonald should get the next shot after Lawler gets his rematch. Lawler, in his last fight against Jake Ellenberger, the first 2 rounds he wasn't as dominant, but the third round, great dominant TKO. Looks like a guy on a mission to get another shot. So I think Lawler should get his rematch against Hendricks first, when Hendricks gets healthy. And then, eventually, down the line, MacDonald should get a title shot. At least. Especially coming out of this fight tonight. 3.5 for this fight. Just really dominant. Very exciting fight for Rory MacDonald. He's been a great fighter. I've seen him fight for years. He's a good fighter, and I think he deserves a shot against the champion. He deserves a welterweight championship fight. I don't think he'll get it in the near future, but I think that a title shot is going to be in his future for sure, especially after I think Lawler should get a shot, a rematch first. Then MacDonald should get at least one more good win. I think he should fight Lawler. Oh, I would see that. Robbie Lawler against Rory MacDonald, and the winner gets the champ. That's what I think they should do. They should either A, give Lawler a rematch first, then have MacDonald get a match, or just have Lawler take on MacDonald for number 1 contendership, since Robbie Lawler is the number 1 contender, ranked number 1, and I think MacDonald's number 2. So I think they should have the number 1 and the top 2 contenders face off, especially since MacDonald beat Woodley, who was number 3. That's what I think they should do. Have MacDonald fight Lawler and winner gets Hendricks. I would love to see that. That would be very exciting to see. Because these two guys are very good. That's what I think they should do. I would love to get Lawler get a rematch first. Get the automatic rematch. But I think Lawler should fight for the rematch against MacDonald. I would like to see that in the near future. For sure. Now, on that main event for the UFC Flyweight Championship, we have Vitamins. Demetrious Johnson taking on the first Russian-born athlete to ever get a UFC title match. And I need to pronounce his name right. Ali Bagautinov. Hope I pronounced that name right. The main event wasn't as good as the co-main, but it still had a lot of decent action, especially fast and furious action from the champ, Demetrious Johnson. Just like Rory MacDonald and Ryan Bader before him, just had a dominating, vicious performance on Ali. Now, Ali had some good shots in too. He had some lucky shots. He had a lucky takedown. I call it lucky because he just got some fluke shots, like a good takedown, but unfortunately he didn't have Johnson down long enough to really take advantage of it. And even Johnson tripped a little bit. He got rocked a little by Ali. But like I said, Ali got lucky just because he got that lucky fluke shot in because Johnson tripped. For the majority of the fight, like I said, Johnson was just on top with some vicious moves. The fast and furious move. He's really quick. And these two guys are just quick guys. Flyweight guys are very quick. And this is just very good. Like I said, not as good a fast-paced action as the MacDonald fight, but still good action nonetheless, with Johnson being the aggressor and just really outmatching and outpowering Ali. And he's the champ. He doesn't need to Because usually I see championship fights, usually the champion just lays low and just makes his opponent come to them. But in this case, Demetrious came to Ali and just really outpowered and really outpunched and outstruck. That's a key word. Outstriked Ali. He had more strikes in, really more vicious striking in. He just outmatched him physically. And technically, he's more technically better than Ali. And it shows, especially with the unanimous decision victory from Demetrious Johnson, as you see by my subtitle, of course, saving and retaining his UFC flyweight championship. I don't think anybody can beat Demetrious Johnson at flyweight division. He's just fast and furious, and you can't catch him. You know, he hounds you, and he hounded Ali in that fight. And Ali has some good shots too. Some call him lucky. I call him lucky, but hey, Ali looked cut. He got busted up. Some big punches. Now, like you look at Johnson, the end of the fight, he looked great. He had no bruises or anything. You look at Ali at the end of the fight, he had cut on his nose, a couple cuts on his face. He looked scraped up. He did look like he just walked out of a vicious fight. On the losing end of a vicious fight, as he lost to Demetrious Johnson, really looking dominant once again as UFC flyweight champion. In a decent end, there's probably best UFC in a while, especially, like I said, with UFC 173, the main event was the only good part of the entire damn pay-per-view. But in this pay-per-view, there was at least 3 good fights in this pay-per-view, for sure. So there you go. 7.0 out of 10. My overall rating once again for this pay-per-view. And I'd like to bid you all farewell and goodbye. And thank you all very much for watching my review for UFC 174. With that in mind, y'all been attacked by the review from Zach. Once again, thanks for watching. Have a great Father's Day, everybody. And happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there, especially mine. My great dad, who's my DJing Rory. See you all later. Yeah.